So you want to learn how to do technical analysis on stocks and you don't know where to start. So this video is going to be a tutorial on how to do the basic of technical analysis. So to start off, we're using Tesla as the example, and we are going to be on the time frame of the daily chart. This is on the program Thinkorswim, which is by TD Ameritrade. You can use a lot of different programs. All of it should work for the exact same ending goal. It just may look a little different. So starting off, what I like to do is I like to get the Fibonacci extension. I like to find out what the overall support and resistance levels. And the support and resistance level basically defines areas that the stock is already traded at and that buyers and sellers kind of agree on the price, whether it's too cheap or too expensive. So just think of it like support is the buyers want to keep buying, and a resistance is sellers outsell buyers. So, anyways, let's kind of look at Tesla, and then we're going to set up by using the Fibonacci. So the Fibonacci extension should show us the retracement to 100%, the highest point of the stock. I'm just going to go actually into the details on this so we can get a very accurate reading. And so this is going to be as accurate as it gets as far as the levels. So starting off, we have at a high of 651.28, and then I'm going to be doing all these actually on the close rather than the wick of the candle, just to give us like what the ranges were that we actually traded and closed the day off for on the daily candle. All right, so yes, you want to make sure that you're really getting these on the end where it closed, and that's just going to be more of an idea so you can understand the actual price that it closed out for the day. So anyways, we have all these different levels. These are all retracement levels, and they basically show the retracement, what percentage it was from the recent low to the high. So anyways, when we look at these, we can look and see that we have a resistance at 651.12 for the daily close. So breaking through that will be a new all-time high for the stock. And that's going to just represent that it is going higher, breaking new highs. But anyways, if we were to break down from that all-time high, say if we were to just put in a top today, that will now be used as a resistance. And this down here would be considered a support because the overall trend is above that line. And then if it hits down, because it's already technically traded through that area, buyers and sellers technically have agreed at that price of a 78.6% retracement, and they are using that as a support now. So anyways, that's explaining support and resistance. Now we're going to be looking by adding studies. So I have a bunch of different studies. This may seem very overwhelming if you have never seen a lot of these. I actually don't know why volume is up here. I normally do have the short squeeze indicator, and that's kind of more used for, I feel like penny stocks and lower cap stocks. And we won't be using that necessarily today. We may be making a video in the future just kind of talking about how to analyze penny stocks because they're a lot more manipulated than actual well-known blue chip stocks. So looking at Tesla, we have a couple indicators that are showing the chance of a pullback. So when we use the RSI, it's called the relative strength index. When it flashes red, it essentially is saying that it is overbought, and that it is, when something's overbought, that basically means people are buying it way more than they should be, and it's almost too aggressive, the trend of buying, and then it's just not going to be able to hold up like that consistently over a long period of time. And then it's doomed to just pull back. You can see an earlier trend, so when it would go overbought, it would signal, and then it would go back down and then to a more normal level. But that indicates normally that a upcoming drop is ahead of us. And then we're also using the MACD, and the MACD is another indicator that basically just talks about the trend. And when the blue crosses over the yellow, it's signaling a downtrend. And then as far as it crossing over the yellow, it is talking about an uptrend. So that is the first two numbers that we're talking about as far as indicators and just support and resistance levels. So when we have these indicators, basically we want to use these as being able to tell times to buy and times to sell. I would not solely just hold and use these indicators as truth, because truth behold, most of these times these indicators can flash and they don't necessarily mean anything as far as the long-term trend. And it kind of means that maybe a top is coming up, but the longer-term bias, I would always say in the US equity market, is then to hold. So I would always say the buy and hold theory, but some stocks you can't necessarily do that, especially if we're doing a swing trade and so on. So anyways, as far as the indicators I have on here, I have the 200 exponential, the 100 and I think it's the 180 simple moving average, the 100 simple moving average, the 50 and the 9. And so it may seem very overwhelming. Why do I have so many just indicators about the moving averages? But some of them do mean certain things for me. So when I'm looking at these charts and I'm trying to make a determination, is this in a short-term uptrend or is this in a long-term uptrend? Or is this uptrend just been happening in the past couple days? Or are we in a longer-term downtrend? It just basically gives us the full picture. When I'm looking at this chart in particular, it's showing that essentially, the 50-day moving average was just recently crossed by the 9-day moving average, and that signals that in the short, it's having a short-term uptrend. And then, for example, here the 50 is now starting to slope upwards, and this can be important too. If we do see, like, when these lines cross over, say if the 200 were to cross over with the 100 or the 100 with the 50, it can just show that we are in a longer term bias of a uptrend rather than the smaller picture of seeing maybe a 9-day moving average break over the 50. It just really just shows us the momentum within those periods. And these can also be used as support and resistances. You actually can see it bounced off the 180 simple moving average and then it regained support for the trend. Anyways, when we have all these things, what do necessarily all these things mean? It just basically is a indication of where the stock may be headed, if it is a short-term bias, long-term bias, and so on. So anyways, this is basically my setup that I use, and I will in later videos talk about how to trade these and kind of the setups that present themselves and how I trade them, because none of this is actually financial advice. This is all my opinion. Anyways, I hope you guys have liked the videos. If you guys have sticked around, please make sure you give it a like, maybe even sub or hit the bell notification, because this channel's new, but I want to keep this content going because I think a lot of this content isn't out there. Or it's out there and it's not done the way it should be done. So anyways, yeah.